Hey guys, Steve from Mad Pick here, and I've got Phil, aka Buffalo Diller here. So we're here to talk a little bit about the new Ruger manufactured Marlin 1895SBL. So a little background on this gun, right? This gun was one of the original T&E samples sent out by Ruger, and bottom line up front, this is a fantastic gun. Like, initial impressions, and so I'll give my initial impressions, then Phil will give his, and like, we've seen that between the two of us, what, thousands of Marlins?
Yes.
A lot of them.
All throughout the years.
Yeah.
And decades.
Yeah, so from original waffle tops to, you know, some of the newest guns that came out of the Ilion factory. So the build quality on this is fantastic, right? So the way that Ruger paid attention to detail on this cannot be overstated, the actual attention to detail they paid. There's a few differences on it from the existing SBL, and I'm not going to go too much into all that. We're just going to kind of glow over it because you guys have seen the other videos about that, right? So it's got a different optic rail. It doesn't have the XS rail. It's got a proprietary one now. Good positive adjustment. I do like the fact that it has the little tick marks on there. That's kind of a nice change. It's got an extra an extra Picatinny rail slot, I think. Or maybe there's two total new ones. The furniture, the slimmer handguard is great. Granted, those handguards don't last long on any gun that comes through my shop for the most part. But it is definitely a more positive feature than the older, thicker one was. The other thing I'd like to talk about is the quality of the furniture. So one of the problems that I frequently see with Marlin stocks, especially over the past, we'll even go as far back as about 20 years, is the quality isn't that great. Like 70s, 80s, I mean, I think their furniture was beautiful, especially on like the 35 Remington 336s. For some reason, the 35 Remington 336s had gorgeous figure in the wood. But when Remington had these guns, what I saw a lot was there's some weak spots on these. And right here, and very frequently, and most people would never see this because they're not taking the stock off their gun. These were cracked as they were on the gun. I mean, you see that a lot, right?
Yeah, they split off completely. You have to glue them back in.
Yep. So the build quality is not great. It didn't matter if it was a walnut stock. It didn't matter if it was a laminate stock. They all suffered that same shortcoming. The build quality on this, now granted, sample size of 1 so far, but it seems far and away better. In regards to the laminate, now, Phil, you've seen this. On some of those laminate stocks, actually, here's one. So you would see imperfections in the wood. Of course, this one doesn't have any. But sometimes what you would see is little divots where the glue didn't fill in or something chipped off. That's another thing that was really common, or is really common, is these corners right here, they chip off all the time. We'd have brand new guns that came in that were chipped like that from the factory. Like, stuff that shouldn't make its way out. So this is from a later Ilion made 1894 SBL, and you can see the burning from the laser checkering, right? Now compare that, Phil, show that. Let's see if we can get it side by side. The difference is pretty stark, especially in feel. So, you know, you can see right here where it burned. You know, it's even worse on this side. These guns left the factory like that. Ruger will not be allowing stuff like that to happen. So, big fan of the furniture on it. They did something near and dear to my heart. They threaded the barrel. They put a really nice thread protector on there. Now, I would have preferred they used 5/8 24, but they didn't. They went with a different thread pitch.
11/16 24.
Yeah. Their new front sight, the tritium fiber optic, that's a pretty cool feature. I do like that. So we've had no issues with function. We've had no issues with any of it. The loading gate, they tuned the loading gate. So that notoriously tough loading gate spring, not a thing anymore. You don't need to replace this anymore, right? There's plenty of parts that we'll replace on guns, and we only replace the things that we need to. On the new Ruger Marlin line, we will not be replacing these. There's zero reason to do it. The spiral fluting on the bolt.
Yeah, that's my favorite part.
Oh, isn't it so nice?
So usually we've jeweled them in the past to give them a nice dimension, but with these ones, with that polished spiral fluting, they look really good.
Yeah, and it's better than the old the Remington straight flutes that they did down there on the SBLs. I didn't mind that. I did kind of like it, but this is just much nicer, and it does really, like, the action just feels so much nicer. So, Phil, why don't you talk a little bit about your impressions with it?
So my initial impressions with it, it was a huge step in quality, especially the internals of the firearm. Ruger did a tumble finish to clean up all the machine marks on the inside. So it's going to help make the action smoother. It's going to be more presentable when you open the action, and it's just a lot cleaner inside. And there's just no machine marks in that bolt passage right there. And that was a huge upgrade from a lot of the Marlins that I had seen from Remington over the past
if I may,
2 decades.
If you look inside here, you can, now granted this is an 1894, but if you look in there, you will see all those burrs, all those machine marks, right? One of the other things that the Marlins are notorious for is their chambers are just so damn rough.
Yeah, razor sharp edges too.
Oh yeah. Phil and I have cut ourselves more on this edge than I care to acknowledge. It's one of the first things I do is I take some sandpaper on there and I just kind of just hit that edge so I don't cut myself. But yeah, they did a great job on the internals. I completely agree.
Outside of that, it's basically the same as you've always seen. 19-inch barrel, threaded 11/16 24. Their proprietary rail. Their polishing, because the whole receiver is tumbled, they had polishing and then it's smoothed up on top of that. Ruger went back and actually repolished a lot of their guns to crisp up the edges.
Yeah,
in here, which was from the initial batch. Outside of that, I mean, just the stainless is well polished. It has a nice brush finish on it, and I was just a huge fan of this gun. After seeing what Remington had been putting out for a long time, this is a huge upgrade.
Yeah, and Phil just hit on one of the things that I want to address, which is that. So we've talked to Ruger. They're paying attention, right? They're taking the lessons learned from Remington, right, and making sure that they're not repeating those same mistakes. So they're listening to the market, like the threaded barrel, right? Sure, some people aren't going to like the threaded barrel. Well, when they come out with a GBL or whatever their next models will be, then you'll have options down the line where you're not going to have a threaded barrel if it bothers you that much. But they've got that really nice thread protector on there that most people didn't even realize it was threaded at first. So it's one of those things, like threading a lever gun. Like, let's talk about that real quick, Phil. Threading a lever gun is not an easy process. All right? That's why a lot of companies that do barrel threading, it's either extremely expensive or they just won't do it. So having one threaded right out of the box, I mean, that's fantastic because that's going to save you money, right? Like, we're $350 to $450 to thread a barrel because it's not just pulling a barrel off and putting it in a lathe. You have to cut a tube back, right? You have all these different things that interact with that barrel that you then need to do. You need to relocate sights. there's a lot to it, and it takes a lot of time. So, and it takes a lot of attention to detail because it's really easy to screw up. So it's not like just pulling an AR barrel and threading it. It's very different. Having that done out of the box is going to save a lot of people a lot of time, money, and give them an option to shoot a factory suppressed lever gun that right now only Henry's offering, which I think is fantastic. So
it just goes to show you how large the suppressor market has grown too.
Oh, absolutely, right?
Especially on lever guns.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't shot a lever gun with a suppressor on it yet, you're missing out. You really need to. And you have so many options now. You've got, the Silencer Co., you've got the hybrid, you've got the hybrid 46, the hybrid 46, the 46M, and this is just for 4570, right? Because it used to be, there was one game in town pretty much, and it was Thunder Beast, right? They're still around, still good cans. Phil has one that he loves.
Yeah, I have one of my 30-30.
Yeah, and the guys at Thunder Beast are fantastic. But you've got now Thunder Beast. Silencer Co. has 2 options. Dead Air has the Primal. I think Griffin has one too. So there's a bunch of options out there now. And because of this and the way they did it, there is room to thread on an ASR brake or a key mount brake or whatever you want if you don't want to do direct thread. So, yeah, lots of good stuff with this gun. Very happy with it. Very impressed with it. Let's talk about the barrel real quick. So the cold hammer forged barrel. Right now, from what we're seeing and from what we're hearing from other people, this thing shoots better than the older Marlins do. And the older Marlins shoot pretty well, as long as you understand you're shooting a lever gun, right? These aren't like sub-MOA rifles. That's not how they were designed. Big fan of what they're doing with the cold hammer forged barrels, though. I think that's only going to add to the accuracy that you're going to see coming out of these guns that are coming out of the North Carolina factory. So, what else? Oh, the other thing we did, and I posted some pictures on the story, I went through and basically took this whole thing apart, and I took all the different accessories that are out there, right? So the Midwest Industries standard Marlin 1895 handguard, it fits. If for some reason or moving forward in the future, the excess sights, right, they fit. There's actually, this screws right here into the barrel, and rather than having the traditional dovetail where it normally is, they still have that dovetail, but right behind it is the threaded hole for this screw. The chisel stock, right, fits. Form rifle stocks, they fit. So it's backwards compatible with everything. I don't know if I'm missing. Oh, the new Midwest Industries handguard and rail, right? Which I absolutely adore this thing, right? It fits because, again, they didn't change any of the hole spacing or thread pitch of anything. So the parts are backwards compatible. Levers interchangeable, like it, all fantastic stuff. So as we move forward, hopefully the aftermarket will continue to catch up. I can tell you for a fact that Mad Pig's new muzzle brake, we are going to be making one for this gun, right? So you will be able to get our new Thumper muzzle brake, and it'll be a direct thread drop fit right on there, right? So, and I'm sure other companies will follow. So, all really good stuff, a fantastic rifle, and we're expecting some really great things out of the new, I believe it's Maiden, or Mayoden? I don't know, somebody can correct me down in the comments on how to pronounce that. The new North Carolina factory, all right? But thanks for tuning in, thanks for giving us your time, and if you have any questions or if there's anything that we can answer for you guys, drop them in the comments and we'll go from there. All right, thanks.